It's a body structure thing. Welcome to the origin story. On this next episode, our body structure team is devoted to improving the day-to-day life of the individual through preventative and recovery care based on structural improvement of the body. I'm your host, Ron Buford, and with me is my co-host and developer of the SRM body structure system and intelligent threads product lines, Brian Brzezinski.
Hello.
Howdy. I've been waiting for this one for a little while.
Have you really?
Yeah. It's the origin story, which is every time I think about it, it's just wild. Wild. Right? And, just like, what's the name of the girl that I was dating when you and I met? It's just both the story itself and then how it came to pass throughout its history has been just
You're building it up pretty good.
pretty wild. Well, I mean, it's when you and I get together, it's like the same conversation every single time.
For sure.
It's like, oh my gosh, can you believe where we were when we were in our, teens and 20s?
Was it
now
2000 or 2001? It's 2000.
It had to have been 2000.
I think it was 2000.
It was 2000.
Yeah.
Because I started playing football at Baylor in 99.
Okay.
So I think it was off-season because I was in track season when you and I met, so it had to have been 2000.
Yeah, because you were throwing javelin.
Yeah. So, 2000. So we've been friends for a little over 21 years now. Wow.
There you go.
Pretty crazy.
It's crazy.
Well, before we get into that, I really want to have our listeners and people watching on YouTube kind of go through your journey of how you got into SRM.
Yes.
I think is a great way to start, and then we can flow into when you and I met.
Absolutely. So I'll back it way up. I was a sophomore. In high school, and I played basketball for my high school team.
Yep.
I'm 6'5".
I'm not small, and he's like, you can see how big he is compared to me.
And that year I could touch halfway up my arm or so on the rim.
Oh wow!
And I shot 33% from the 3-point line, which isn't. It's not impressive. It's just It's just average.
Yeah.
Also that year, I took a job as a janitor.
Okay.
And I worked as a janitor. It was a great time. I loved what I did.
Sure.
And I vacuumed. Probably, it felt like half a football field a night. And I pulled trash and did some other stuff too.
Sure.
And we did multiple buildings every night. It was great because we could do it after school. And we had plenty of time. It was really good.
Yeah.
Well, but I only vacuumed with my right arm. I never vacuumed with my left arm. My left arm was my cord arm.
Gotcha.
And we had to make those perfect triangles, right?
Yeah.
And so my sophomore year, I played pretty good. My junior year, my right shoulder dropped quite a bit. And all of a sudden, I not played as good. By my senior year, I don't know how much my right shoulder was down, but it was really down because of that repetitive motion from the vacuum cleaner threw my body out of place.
Interesting.
The repetitive motion of it caused my structure
to just compensate.
From the motion.
Yeah.
And that year, I could barely get my hand over the rim. I remember one time I went to go dunk and my leg gave out and I hit the wall in the middle of the game.
Wow.
I mean, I shot 17% from the 3-point line. The only reason I know those statistics is because we kept track. I mean, it's not like,
Yeah.
But think about that. Shouldn't you play better your senior year than your sophomore year? It makes no sense. Then in my senior year, I kept spraining my ankles, but not major, just little sprains here and there.
Sure.
And then finally, I sprained my ankle so bad, I missed the last half of my senior year. That was it. I was done. Like, I never played competition basketball again, other than I played some church ball and
some pickup games. Yeah.
Pickup games, which I love. And I went to rehab, and they did everything they could do, which was good.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the doctor, and he goes, well, it's going to be another month before your swelling goes down.
Wow.
So I went to rehab for a month. Went to the doctor. He says, another month before your swelling goes down. And really what they did is they addressed my ankle. And I think they did heal it. I think my ankle got better. But the problem at this point was my knee was way out of place.
Right.
But I never had any pain in my knee at all. I had pain in my back, I had pain in my head, and I had pain in my ankle, but I had no pain in my knee.
Well, and I think what you're saying is a very common story.
Absolutely.
For a lot of young athletes.
Well, that one girl that I worked on that you introduced me to,
yeah,
she peaked. We'll get to that later, but she peaked I think her junior year in high school.
Right.
The time she got to college, she was better at junior year than she was in her college.
Right.
Because she was so structurally out of place.
Right.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
So long story short, my mom says, "Hey, we need to go see this guy." And there was a guy. I'm from Waco.
Right.
Which is awesome. That's how we met through Baylor.
Baylor Bears.
I never went to Baylor. I'm not that smart. But I lived around there, and I happened to meet Ron one day.
I'm not that smart either, but I still went to Baylor.
But we'll get into that.
Yeah.
And so, long story short, we go to see this guy, and we walk in, and he looks at me and goes, "Oh, your knee's out of place." And I go, "This guy's an idiot." Because, I'm 18 years old. I knew everything.
Yeah.
My ankle's swollen.
Right.
It's not my knee.
Right.
I have never had a problem with my knee. Well, he gets my knee to correct structurally. And when he did, I was like, oh, and I felt kind of a warm, tingly feeling go down into my ankle. By the next day, my swelling's gone.
Wow.
3 days later, I'm in the gym. I can touch halfway up my arm again on the rim. I don't know what my percentage shot was, but like that day I couldn't miss. It was amazing. It was like one of those days you go to the gym and you're like, this is, I was like throwing it up sideways and it was going in. Right. I was like, this is the best day ever.
Wow.
And then from there, I started doing the same workouts I was already doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to where I could touch my elbow on the rim.
Wow.
Like it was great. It was an amazing feeling. It felt like I was flying. It was really cool. But I would never have the opportunity if he didn't correct me structurally.
The right way.
Yes.
Right.
And so the same day I was in, I'm 6'5", my dad's 6'6". This guy that it became my mentor. He's about 5'10", 5'11".
Yeah.
And so there's a junior high back stretch that we do. We just picking up, just a real easy pickup, and it elongates the back, or it helps open up the back. And he taught me how to do my dad, because my dad's 6'6".
Right, so he couldn't really.
Well, he could, but he said, "Hey, why don't we just get these two guys to pop each other's backs, and we don't have,
Yeah, fair.
And so I picked him up, and it stretched, and he picked me up, and it stretched, and my mentor looked at me and goes, "Hey, why don't you come back in 3 weeks, and we'll make sure your ankle set right." I said, "Okay." So I come back in 3 weeks, and I'm thinking, why am I here? And in that time, I was stretching all my friends' backs, which was fun.
Yeah.
And then he says, "Hey, why don't you stretch my back?" And he walked in the room. He says, "Oh, your ankle looks fine. Why don't you stretch my back?" So I went over there and stretched his back.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, this is great. I feel so good." I had a football player follow me the other day, and time I could get him off of me, I thought we were engaged. And I thought, okay. The guy was hilarious.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what'd you do to my ankle?
Yeah.
And so he showed me. And then I brought a friend in, and what'd you do to my knee? Yeah. What'd you do to that knee? He showed me. Well, how'd the hips work? How's this work? And I was just fascinated about how he did it. Never thought about doing it as a profession. I was just completely fascinated with it. And then finally one day he was like, "If you'll help me physically in my office, I'll teach you and you can start your own practice."
Interesting.
And I said, "Okay, yeah."
Yeah.
Because it was just fun.
Sure.
It was fascinating. And then that was 2000 or so.
Yeah.
And that's about the time. And then from there, I was like, okay, we got to figure this out better, because when I first met him, he really worked with the bone structure, and then we went into the muscle structure, and that was brought in the intelligent threads and a whole bunch of other stuff. It's really, really cool.
Right.
And there's a huge learning curve that's still happening. But then I didn't really have any clientele because I just started. And who wanted to see the 20-year-old punk kid that knew everything?
Right.
And so anybody that let me touch them, I would work on them.
Right.
And then I met Ron.
Enter me, right?
I met Ron.
So I go to my girlfriend's house girlfriend's apartment at the girlfriend at the time, right? And I think you were in there.
I was.
Right?
I think I was her neighbor. I think I lived upstairs or over a door or something.
Right.
And she says, "You should work on my boyfriend."
Right.
And I go, "Okay." Yeah. He's an athlete. I go, "Okay."
He plays football and runs track for Baylor. Like,
okay.
You should work on him, right?
So she's like, "Come over," and then I was over, and then you came over.
Yeah, I came over, and I had just gotten back from Arizona State's track meet, right?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I just gotten back from Arizona State, and I twisted my ankle when I threw the javelin.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Second thing I learned.
Right, and you and I just started, just talking a little bit, and I was like, yeah, I actually twisted my ankle really bad. I'm going to be out for 3 weeks and probably miss the Big 12 championships. And you're like, well, can I look at it? I was like, yeah, but my trainer said I'm going to be out for 3 weeks, so I don't know what you can do, but sure, why not? He looked at it, did a couple moves on it, and I was like, wow, it feels great. And went back to practice the next day, and I was at full tilt. Like no swelling, no anything, right? And my trainer comes over to me and is like, man, I guess I was wrong about your foot. It ended up being fine. I could have sworn it was a lot worse than it was. I'm like, yeah, I had my witch doctor work on it. And I know you're not a doctor or anything, but I mean, that's what.
Or a witch,
or witch.
Either way.
I was like, I'm going to hold on to your heel, and it's just, that's, since then, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go see my witch doctor. But it's one of those
Didn't
things.
Help that we were in Waco,
Yeah,
so that
Waco.
rhymes together.
Yeah,
but
right.
anyways.
And he was just like, yeah, okay, whatever, kid. And, since then, I started going to you more consistently, and you were working on me, and I brought a couple of other track athletes in.
Right.
And that was, one of our should have been one of our top heptathletes.
Yeah. That
we recruited, but she wasn't doing as well as she did in high school.
She wasn't playing to her full potential.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I brought them in, you fixed her up, and tell us the story about when you went and saw them.
So I was trained visually how to assess people.
Right.
And so when people find this out, they're always like, well, what's wrong with that person? And I'm like, well, the shoulders down, the hips rotated. They probably have this pain, that pain, this pain.
Right.
And so I was at Ron's house, and we were playing that game.
Right.
And then your friends come over, and Ron's like, what's wrong with those people? And I was like, well, she's not using any of her legs. I didn't know she was a track athlete. I had no clue.
Right.
It's like, she's not using any of her legs. Those legs are horrible. And she's like,
what?
What? She goes, I run track. And I go, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm one of the top recruited heptathletes in the country.
Yeah. I was like, I'm sorry. She goes, now you have to fix me. I was like, okay. So I worked on her.
Right.
And
both of them, right?
Yeah, we worked on both of them.
Yeah.
And the one girl says, well, why don't you, can you come to my event? I'm going to do the long jump Saturday.
Well, it was a little bit of setup because she was like, can you come to my event? And you're like, yeah, sure. When is it? She was like, well, I'm a heptathlete, so it's all day long.
Yeah, basically. It starts at 8 a.m. Like,
Right.
oh.
You're like, oh, boy.
So I went out there, and I'm standing on the fence watching them practice and warm up, and her mom walks over to me and says, hey, I heard you worked on my daughter. I said, yeah. She goes, what do you do? And I said, well, what's the longest she's ever long jumped? And I don't quite remember the numbers on it, but I remember the difference in it.
Yeah.
And let's say she jumped 17 feet.
Right.
And she goes, well, she jumped 17 feet her junior year in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I said, what is she? I said, she hasn't touched that yet. I said, well, if that was her max then and she's been training and now we got everything right, she should get like 18 feet.
Yeah.
And that was pretty audacious statement.
Her mom was still like, come on.
Even today, I wouldn't probably get a foot farther.
Right.
But, I was 20 at the time and I knew everything.
Sure.
And so she's, oh, well, it was very good to meet you, and walks back down the fence. And I was like, oh, okay.
Crazy.
And because, nobody knows about this.
Yeah.
And so.
Especially back then.
And so anyways, she jumps, scratches her toes over, and you can tell she jumped quite far.
Yeah.
And then you see the mom talking to the husband, looking at me, and then she had her two sons were there, and they're talking. And then she jumps again, and she jumps 18 feet.
Wow.
It was a foot farther. She ended up jumping, I believe a foot and a couple inches farther.
Yeah.
And the mom brings the husband and the two boys down the fence and says, oh, this is Brian.
Right.
This is my husband and
All
my
of a sudden
two
you're
sons.
their best friends.
She goes, what's wrong with them? I said, okay, here we go again.
Well, but a good story. She ended up being one of the top.
She PR'd in every one of her
events that meet, and then ended up that season being top 10 in the country.
She's either like 4 or 7.
Yeah, she's All-American. She hit All-American.
She missed the Olympics by
a couple points,
like a 1 second or something.
Yeah, a couple points,
which is pretty impressive.
Well, from where she was to
because she wasn't even close,
barely competing in the Big 12 to almost winning a national championship and going to the Olympic trials.
Yeah,
I mean, pretty incredible.
Yeah, and but no regrets because she played her full potential.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Right. I just wonder what she could have done if she would have been wearing IT throughout that whole process.
Well, I mean, and if we could have corrected her when she was a junior.
Right.
And then she had, because I did the same jumping workout when I hurt my ankle, or before I hurt my ankle, and I was decreasing in power,
Right.
in vertical,
Right.
and then afterwards, a year later, I'm hit my elbow on the. After I got corrected, I hit my elbow on the rim.
Right.
How about if I continue through that?
I know. And you don't know the
And then,
ends.
how do you test it? Okay.
Yeah.
Now back it up. Sprain your ankle again, and then see what happens.
Right. I know.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can't really quantify that
Yeah.
that test.
But we can if we get a lot of
people and really focus in on how far can you go.
And this correct.
If you train with this at a, like when you're in high school, and then you have a lot of our athletes hitting All-American, making world records, hitting, great CrossFit workouts, or,
Right.
Getting up there in the rankings really quickly.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe, we'll see, once we get to that point, but it's pretty incredible. But so a year later,
Mm-hmm.
so I just finished up.
A year after we met.
A year after
Okay.
we met, I just finished up spring ball. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
And I hurt my wrist really bad in the last practice, but then my buddy and I were going to, we got the cheapest flight, $300, and it was to Paris, France.
That's crazy.
Right, at $300 flight.
You couldn't even get to like Florida for $300.
Well,
right?
what was funny is just like we were trying to find like what's the cheapest place for us to go during spring break,
Right.
And we're like, France. We're like, okay, fine. Twist my arm, I'll go to France. So we ended up getting this, really cheap condo on the beach in Perpignan. It's on the border between France and Spain.
Oh, cool.
And I'd sprained my wrist really bad on the last day of practice before he went, and I didn't have a chance to go see you. I was like, just wait till I get back because, he's busy, I'm busy, and I'll just wait. So like a bunch of, idiot Americans, we were playing football on the beach in France, and everybody's looking at us like we're crazy. We're like,
Right.
Who are these guys? Obviously, they're Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And this one girl comes up to us, and she goes, "Are you guys Americans?" We're like, "Yeah, how'd you know?" Because y'all are loud and playing football. We're like, "Sorry."
Yeah.
We didn't even notice. It's just our natural personality. This older guy comes up to us, and we're just like, "Oh man, we're sorry. We'll be quiet. We're not even drinking age yet at this point, so we're just like not even. Well, I guess over there we were, but we didn't really,
Right.
we weren't that wild or anything like that." He goes, "No, I wanted to talk to you about your body structure." And I'm sitting there like,
Okay.
"What?" I was like, "What's going on?" He goes, "Do you play football?" It's like, "Yes, I'm a quarterback." It's like, "You're not throwing like a quarterback." And I was like, because I knew my wrist was hurt because I couldn't fully,
Right.
extend down like a quarterback would. I was throwing it like this, more like a baseball. And he goes, "Your wrist is out of place." And, I've talked to you on and off for a year, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, starting to sound like my friend Brian.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes, "Well, I can fix it for you if you'd like me." I was like, "Sure,
Okay.
please, by all means." So he grabbed my wrist, and he used his girlfriend or wife, whatever, to get the proper structure, I guess. She was feeling her structure to feel my structure, and then
Okay.
trying to match it up or whatever he was doing. Got my wrist back in its place, and I was like, "Wow, where'd you learn that?" He goes, "Well, I'm at the Mind and Body Institute or something, really crazy in San Francisco." And I was just like, "Okay, but where'd you learn how to do this?"
Yeah.
He goes, "Well, there's this amazing guy in Waco, Texas."
Yeah.
And I was just, "What?" I was like, is it this person?" He's like, "Yeah, how did you know that?" I was like, "I go to Baylor. Like, I know those guys."
Yeah.
It's like, wow, small world. And to me, I was like, that's a sign.
Yeah. No joke. Right.
And it was just a crazy experience. Like,
Wow.
you're halfway around the world and you meet somebody that your buddy knows,
Yeah.
I mean, just absolutely blows my mind.
Yeah.
But
I know. Small world.
small world.
Small world.
But so you worked on me for all throughout my college sports career until, really I didn't see you much my junior year, I think.
Yeah.
Because, as you would say, you had me perfect.
Oh, I had you perfect.
Yeah, perfect. So I had a great junior year, top in the Big 12, great football, great track. And then I got in this massive car accident, right? And I didn't really tell anybody because I actually blew up in the car and burned over 30% of the body. And people on YouTube, you can see my burn scars on my arm. And then I run into you.
Happenstance? I don't think so.
Yeah. Run into you at the mall,
yes,
right?
It's probably the last time I went to the mall.
Probably the last time we just went to the
Anyways.
mall. Well, and, tell me what your experience was when you ran into me.
Well, I was walking down the mall. I have no clue I was there. And I remember hearing Brian. And I'm from Waco, so it's not uncommon. You're out, people say, so I turn and I'm looking at you, and you have you were burned in the face.
Yeah.
And in your arm, and you can't have sun exposure. So you have this big hat on, like a big round hat on. And your head was, I don't know, 3-4 inches in front of your body.
Yeah.
You did not look athletic at that point.
Right.
And your face was a little burnt up. And I'm going, who is this?
Right.
I had no clue.
Right.
And then you go, it's me, Ron, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I go, really? I'm thinking in my mind, really? What the heck? I'm thinking, what happened to you?
Right.
And then you told me your story.
So I went from 230 to 175.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it blew me up.
Yeah.
And I told you what happened. You're like, come see me tomorrow.
Yeah, it was a horrible car wreck. I
Yeah.
don't know if you want to go into that anymore, but that's all we need to say there.
Yeah. But I went and saw you. You're like, come to my office. And
yeah.
But here's the kicker.
Right.
I only got burned.
Right.
Right. So this was a 70 mile an hour going down I-35. And for those of you who don't know Texas, that's the main artery that goes from Austin to Dallas. And I hit 3 cars head on at 70 miles an hour, flipped 4 times, landed on the guardrail, and exploded. And I was able to still be coherent, on fire, but coherent.
Which is amazing.
Tear the door off the hinges.
Which is impressive.
Well, I'm a strong guy. All of my friends can attest. I can squat a lot. But, ripped the door off the hinges, did the stop, drop, and roll.
Right.
Wrecked next to a Navy ENT who was broken down on the side of the road. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, another
no coincidence.
Small, but that was the only thing that I
suffered
was burns.
Yeah. And a cut on your knee.
Yeah, I had a piece of glass that got stuck in my knee.
Well,
right.
That's because you crawled out or something, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just like, okay, after all of that, no body structure damage.
Because the car you hit was going 70 on the opposite direction.
Correct.
So it's a 140 mile an hour collision.
At least.
And you rolled all those times.
Yeah.
But that's a great point, because I think your body is able to adapt.
Right.
Very quickly.
Right.
And I think if we didn't have you straight, you would have broke more things.
I agree.
Or broke something.
And I look at it as, and you can see a little bit this more on video, when you're perfectly straight and then take an impact.
Bam. Yep.
Then that's how I ended up looking.
Yeah, you looked
right.
pulled forward big time.
Pulled forward and just, shoulders hunkered in, neck out, really crushed in chest.
Your body took the blow of it.
Took the blow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
What it's supposed to do.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yes, I'm a big, strong guy. I can take a lot of hits. I took a lot of hits at Baylor football as a quarterback, so that's all we did is take hits. But
back then.
Not now.
They got better.
Yeah, they got a lot better. But think about this, and visualize this if you're listening to our podcast. What if your body's already crunched in?
Right.
Your head's already forward. Your ribs are already down.
Yeah.
You're here, and then take that impact.
You're going to rip your spine in half.
You don't survive.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's a very extreme example.
Right.
But it really is a body structure thing.
It really is.
Right? To be very frank and serious, because I had almost, as you would say, perfect body structure.
I would say perfect.
I was able to take that impact at an extreme
mm-hmm.
and come away almost completely unscathed.
Yeah.
Right? And that's like on the extreme example of the importance of the correct body structure.
Yeah. I mean, did your airbag?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I mean, the airbag helped.
Oh,
the
yeah.
The seatbelt helped.
Yeah.
But still.
I mean, you think of hitting that when you're already in a bad body structure. It's just a click.
Absolutely.
Just how you can click your ankle, click your knee, and rip something. Imagine that at full force.
Yeah.
Right. Or the football player that you and I talked about getting somebody hitting his knee at full force, and then being able to just bounce back from
it. Definitely strained it,
right?
But he was fine.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's pretty incredible.
I agree.
Yeah. Well,
and then we worked on you. I don't know, a couple times probably.
A couple times,
and then you graduated.
Well, then I went off
and see for a long time.
Well, I went off to active duty military, and
oh yeah, that's right.
Then I competed on Team USA in
that's
javelin.
Right. Yeah,
right. And then I did really well. I think a year later, and then I hurt, and I got hit by another drunk driver.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I got hit by a drunk driver from the back.
Oh, good Lord!
And it ripped up my shoulder. Oh. But and this goes back to you don't have enough sense to go back to your buddy and have him fix you.
I didn't know that happened.
Yeah. So I was right on track for Olympic trials, and then hit my shoulder, and then that ended that again. But I didn't go back to see you. So I tried one more year after that and tore my shoulder to pieces.
Wow.
Because now I think about it, I was like, duh, you should have gone seen him, because all you did was just try to do the same movements and rip it in half.
Right. Because the shoulder was already pulled forward. Because that seatbelt will come across.
Right, and it came across here, and so this shoulder was not locked.
Right. It comes across the left shoulder,
right.
And then the right shoulder is exposed. So when you get hit from behind, the right shoulder is the one
my
that
seat
takes
was
the brunt.
completely twisted.
Oh, to the right. So he probably hit you from a different angle too, as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
So pretty crazy.
Wow.
But again, not a lot of injuries because of the right body structure.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I do.
And how do you prove it? Let's recreate the wreck.
Right.
Throw you way out of place and then do it. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, hard pass.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's enough for the origin story, but that's a tough one. But it's one of those that's just a great. It's just a great story. It's a tough story sometimes to tell. Honestly, I thought this story would be a little bit more humorous and stuff like that. And we got in, we went deep. We went to the dark side a little bit, but it's something that the more people really do understand that it really is a body structure thing.
It really is.
Yeah. Then the better impact that we can make.
I think so.
Yeah. All right, man.
All right. Sounds good, sir.
Yeah. Appreciate it, brother.
Got another one.
Yeah. It's a structural thing, sponsored by, well, we don't have any sponsors at this point, so it seems oddly self-serving to sponsor ourselves, but oh well. Intelligent Threads, powered by Myo-E technology, the first athletic wear able to release and relax muscles with no wires or external power sources. The technology in the material helps your muscular and skeletal structure reset by releasing the tight muscles in your body. Yes, real muscle release in this new wearable technology. Now, why aren't you wearing one? Visit Intelligent Threads on Facebook, Instagram, our website, www.intelligentthreads.com, and see us on our YouTube channel. It's a structural thing. Activating your body to its full potential. The future of preventative and recovery wear is here. Be activated. Thank you for joining It's a Body Structure Thing. I'm Ron Buford, along with Brian Brzezinski. Please join us for our next episode. Visit Intelligent Threads and like us on Facebook, Instagram, watch us on our YouTube channel, and listen to the podcast. Visit the website at www.intelligentthreads.com. For SRM, Synergy Release Method, find us on our website at www.srmethod.com.